I'm excited about this video. This isn't a normal mix video. We're going to have that at the end, but this video's in 3 parts. You're in the first part now. This is part 0. This is the intro. But in part 1, which is the second part, just to confuse you, I'm going to go through the whole process of what I'd do if you sent me some files to mix a song. What would I actually do with them? Because usually I start at the point where I'm mixing on the desks. But actually there's a whole load of pre-preparation that goes on where I load the files into the DAW and I trim out silence and I do some EQing and even some compression and other processing, and also run stuff out through my outboard before we do any mix. So in this video, I'm going to go through that whole process and then we're going to do the mix. So look at this video as, if you sent me files, what would I do and what would you get at the end of it? Oh, that's a great cup of tea. Before we start this video, I want to thank Ali Dennis for the Barry's tea, my favourite. And also Philip Beresford, you know who you are, for the Assam tea that I'm still working my way through. Tea donations are always welcome, thank you very much. Right, let's get on with the mix. So I loaded the WAV files into Cubase, and then I trimmed out some silence from the vocal files, and then thought I want to process the vocals through some of my lovely outboard gear. And what I ended up putting them through was the Warm Audio 273 EQ going into the Blackline Audio B17 2A, which is 1176 and 2A style compressor, and I put them in via a hardware insert on Cubase, and then used the render in place function to render all of those vocals back. I went through each vocal track, moved the hardware insert and did render in place on all of those, and voila, we had a new set of vocal files, all of which had been processed through the beautiful Warm Audio preamp and the Blackline Audio compressors. I'm gonna sleep when my dreams seem to keep you in mind. So I did the same thing with the acoustic guitars. I put them through the Warm Audio 273 EQ as a stereo pair, and then also put them through my 2 Blackline Audio compressors. Before doing any of that, I also calibrated the inputs and the outputs and all the units so that we were getting the same amount of levels going in and out and gain reduction, everything like that, because with analog gear, they're not exactly perfect. You can't just match the settings and think, oh, it's going to be identical, because it's really not. That's kind of the joy and also the curse of working in analog. Hardly tickling it at all. And as the guitar gets more aggressive, you can really see the 17 kicking in there with a lot faster attack and release. The 273 is going into each of these 2 units, and I've got a fairly tight attack and release going on, but not a lot of gain reduction on the 17, and then a little bit more gain reduction going on the 2A because it's a lot smoother. Okay, that's that one done. When it came to the electric guitars, I used the SSL Bus Plus. I particularly like running my electric guitars through this. I mean, the compression's nice on it and it's very subtle, but the thing that really makes it stand out for me is the 4K mode. It just adds that bit of channel strip saturation. in, just adding that grit on the top end of the guitars that sounds like all those old classic recordings. I don't know how well that's going to translate on YouTube, but that sounds absolutely awesome here. When you just turn it on and off on one guitar, you can notice it, but it's not a huge difference. But in the mix and cumulatively across all the guitars, you put it in the mix and suddenly the guitars come to life and they kind of spit in some really interesting ways. That's all the guitars done. Let's have a look at the bass. So I've done the bass. I've got it going through the 273 EQ. The first channel is like the DI, so it's a bit more subby. As you can see, I've taken up the top and the mid out. And then the second channel is all the top end, so I've got the high pass right up and I'm taking out some of the top, but it's still fairly toppy, and I'm compressing the low end heavily but with a slow attack and a fairly fast release, but not as tight as it could be. And then the 2A is in compress mode, and then the top end it's got a really harsh attack and harsh release. But the LA2A side is in limit mode and it's really kicking it, making it sound really aggressive. And then you put those two basses together, one doing the bottom, one doing the top, and it should sound amazing. So in the last month or so, and I'm pretty new to the party on this, but in the last month or so I've been trying out Auto-Align 4, which if you don't know what it is, basically gets all your files and kind of moves them around by numbers of samples to make sure that they all phase align and time correctly. And at first I was pretty skeptical of it being fairly old school. I did all the timing on things myself in the past. But actually over the last month I've been using it more and more, and it kind of does work miracles. I mean, sometimes it gets it wrong, and sometimes I just pull a few things out of the alignment so that it's, yeah, I can either do it manually or it was fine as it was. But it is really good, so I've just put that across all of this session, and you know, I'm going with it for the moment. It's now part of my workflow. Another mention is, in this video, this is the first time I'm ever using Sonible's Smart EQ 4. I've never used it before, and it does look really cool. I thought, what a way to try it out. So I've put that across everything, and I've used their kind of front, middle and back on various different bits to try and kind of get things to EQ to each other, and I've also put some of the adaptive EQ on. So when the signals are hitting the desk, I've not done EQ on there as such. I've let Smart EQ do that, so whatever I do on the desk after that is going to be after Smart EQ. Vocal wise, before I even started the screen grabs, I'd already grouped them together, and I'd also added two effects sends for the vocals, one of which is the UAD Pure Plate reverb. I really like that, and the other which is the IK Multimedia Delay Lab. I'm finding that just really easy to get what I want. It's not that it's necessarily any better or any worse than any other delay plugin. It just gets me where I want to be without too many knob moves. So on my vocal bus, I've also got the UAD Silver LA2A, just tickling it a little bit as a whole group. This also kind of glues together the vocals with the reverb and the delay, because they all get sent to that group, which basically means when a vocal's singing, it kind of pushes the reverb and the delay out the way a bit, and then when it stops singing you hear the reverbs and the delays come up. So the reverb and the delay are kind of louder in the gaps, and I really like the way that works. I've also got the RX D-Click plugin, which takes out some of the kind of lip smacking clicks that you get from vocals. I've also got that RX, the Izotope RX D-Click plugin on the top end of the bass, just to take out some of the clickiness on the top end of the bass. So they're things that I didn't capture on the screen grab, but they're doing absolute miracles. Before we start the mix, let's not forget to put some gates on the drums. I'm using the Black Salt Audio silencer, which at this point is very quickly becoming an industry standard in recording studios. It is really, really good. And on the snare, I'm using the ghost function to let all of those ghost notes through, because there's ghost notes all the way through. It's not that it's completely isolating, it's just taking out a lot of the cymbal bleed, which just sounds so much better. Okay, so by this point I've listened to the song and I've got a balance that's kind of good and average for everything, but I'm going to start putting some stuff on. So let's listen through to the drums. I want the bass drum and snare drum to snap a little bit more, so let's just listen to them. So I've patched in via a hardware insert on the computer the E-EQ and the E-Dynamics on the bass drum, and I've got the other E-EQ and I've got the Black Lion Audio B172A, which is patched in on the snare drum. So let me just enable those and let's have a listen and see what they sound like. So that's working. If I turn the treble up a bit, put a bit of top on it. Horrible ringiness there. Pull that out. A little bit of bottom. Don't need to do much on that. That sounds alright. Let's put the dynamics in. So I'm using this to gate it. Use the fast attack, just adds that little clickiness to the beginning of it. I've got a little bit of compression going on there. Let's just have a listen through to the snare. Let me turn it up going into the compressor. So if I pull the release back, you'll hear there's not as much ring. Take the release right down to a minimum. Really brings up that ring, and I quite like that from the close mic. I've got a very slow attack on that. And what's the 2A doing? So on the 1176 side, slow attack, fast release, fairly aggressive. And on the LA2A side, still a fair amount of gain reduction, between 5 and 7 dB, but it's slower. So I've already got patched in. I've got the pair of Blueys patched in, which are coming from this aux send here, the second aux send. So at the moment I've got, just from the last mix I was doing, I've got the bass drum, the snare drum, the two toms, which I haven't put in the mix yet, and I've got a little bit of whatever was on there. So I'm going to see what that sounds like. So that'll be a bit of the overheads, a little bit of the room, and that's sending to these pair of Blueys, which are returning on 9 and 10. So let's have a listen to them. Oh, I can hear the toms coming through. That's nice. Bit more overhead in them. That's really trashy. I can turn the overall send down on that. Wrong one. So not as much is going to it, so it won't be as trashy. let's mix that in parallel. I take it out. Put it in. As well as getting louder, it's actually got more energy. It pumps a bit. It fills in the gaps between the bass drum and snare drum beats. So what happens if I drop the room out? Back in. I'm going to put an insert, because all the drums are coming through this desk, so I'm going to put in my insert, and I've already got pretty much permanently patched in these days. I've got the UVEQ, and I've also got the SSL Bus Plus. The SSL Bus Plus is off at the moment, so let's just put some EQ on all of the drums as a group. Just turn the treble up, make sure it's working. Little bit of treble, little bit of bass, give it a smiley face. High pass at 40. Get the push-pull thing going on where I've got the high pass at 40, but then I'm doing a 30 Hertz shelf. Let's have a listen to some mids. That's all horrible there. I mean, these are all pretty much, these frequencies are set on things that I take out of all the drums, so. Yeah, it all sounds tighter now. I'll tweak as I go. Let's put the Bus Plus in. Put it into mid-side mode. This again will have the settings from the last drum kit I was doing. So at the moment I've got a little bit of tickling going on, about 2-3 dB gain reduction, bit of dynamic EQ going on there. Low attack, fast release, and that's in the mid because we are in mid-side mode. And then in the stereo image, the attack is a little bit tighter, the release is very tight. One thing I did not want to do when I put all of this together was effectively build myself a hardware template. I thought, I don't want to do that. I want to patch things in every time and kind of discover new things. And I find now, because I know I'm going to use that on that and that on that, that I leave certain things patched in and they kind of work 90% of the time when I load it up. And that kind of makes me both happy from a workflow point of view, but also sad from a discovery point of view, because I'm just falling into a routine. I don't know how good that is. I'll revisit that. We'll see in a few months' time whether I have the same routines. Anyway, so I'm quite happy with the basic sound of that drum kit. I want to hear it in context with other things. Let's listen through to the bass. So I've got this low end bass here. Let's put a bit of, put the EQ in on the desk. Bit of top out, bit more bottom. Warm it up. Just have a listen through that top bass. Sounds really nice. I mean, I worked on that bass quite well. The desk EQ I'm just doing to make things fit to each other rather than rather than trying to do the kind of surgical EQ or getting the sound the way I've got. That should have been done, and I should have bounced it back to the computer. That was the whole process we did to prepare for the mix, was getting all the individual tracks to sound as good as possible and processed as correctly as possible. The only thing I like to process completely in real time are the drums, because I find that's the sort of the thing that underpins a rock song. There's the acoustics in. That's quite nice. Yeah, a little bit of EQ on the snare. Bring in some electric stuff. Hammond here. That needs quite a big smiley face, a little bit of bottom off actually. A little bit of top, a little bit of mid out, a little bit of bottom out. At this point I'm going to put the G-Bus compressor on before I bring the vocals in. I do like that G-Bus compressor, it really glues the mix together. It's really useful. I mean, it's literally two knobs, an on button and an auto release button, which I'm not using. I'm using it in the set release. But it sounds great. Right, I want to do some work on those toms. I've got, from whatever previous mix, I've got a little bit of bottom end. I've got a smiley face on the toms, so let's have a listen whether that smiley face is the right thing. I've got the Warm Audio 273 Neve clone over the whole mix if I push the insert. I actually think that sounds really nice. Let me put it on.
I've been holding my breath since the day that you met me. I let you affect me, and now
The vocals need a little bit of.
can't find the words to a sound so obsessed. When I mention you've been in
Quite like that. I need to come back with fresh ears whether I'm going to use the Warm Audio 273 EQ over the whole mix. If I turn up this trim on the UVEQ, sends a higher level to the Bus Plus, which means it will compress a little bit more of the whole kit. I don't really want the drums loud in this song, I just want them there big in the background. Take some of the top off that room. So this, I'm just going to do a pass through the whole song now.
Tell you the way that I'm feeling right now. I thought you should know that I can't seem to find how I'm gonna sleep when my dreams seem to keep you in mind. Why did you go? I feel so low. I got it wrong again. Now you've returned. One thing I've learned, I got it wrong again. I've been holding my breath since the day that you met me. I let you affect me, and now
Burn it without.
I can't find the words to a sound so obsessed. When I mention you've been in dreams that are really my head. Why did you go? I feel so low. I got it wrong
So for the sake of this video, let's say that I am happy with this mix. I've automated all the little bits of vocals and any guitars I want coming up and down on the computer as well, so that's driving into the desk. Let's say I'm all happy with this. What do I do next? Well, the next thing I do is I bounce out each individual channel back to the computer, and also the drums as a group and the whole mix as a group. And that's really easy to do because on these desks there's the USB out post fader, so I can make sure that they are all in on all the channels, and then I can set up a bunch of tracks on the computer, one for each of these stereo pairs, obviously for this lot and for the drums and for the mix, and I can record all of those back to the computer. So it's as much flexibility as possible, because I want to be able to load a song up and someone says, love the mix, but can you just turn the vocal up? Well, then I can sum all of the drums, the stereo pair of drums, and then the basses and the acoustics and the guitars and everything at 0 dB from the stems on the computer, and then I can turn the vocals up a tiny bit, bring them back through the desk just, you know, on a single fader and run it through the G-Bus comp, and I'm getting somewhere close to the mix. And of course you could do that at home. I could do a mix for you. I could run all of your files through my outboard gear, re-record it all back, put it all in a mix where I think it should be, and then send you the individual files of all the channels on the desk. And if you wanted to make changes to it yourself, you could do that afterwards. You could make a guitar list mix to play along on YouTube, for example, or a vocal list mix if people are doing vocal mimes these days. Back in the day, you used to always have to do the standard mix, a vocal up mix, a mix with just backing vocals but no lead vocals, a mix with no vocals whatsoever, and then usually one without the lead guitar on it as well. And then sometimes you'd stem out all the drums, all the bass, you know, the guitars, the keyboards and the vocals and the backing vocals as separate stereo pairs. So the way I do it here, where it just all records back and then I just give you those files, means that you've got ultimate control. You can kind of pretty much reconstruct my mix apart from the bus processing. This is a really nice way of working, and it's good to go through an old song, obviously one of mine for copyright reasons because I don't want the video to get flagged, but yeah, to go through the whole process of what it would be like if you sent me files and then I was going to work on them. How do I prepare the files? You know, what do I do? What do I run different instruments through? And then how do I come up with my mix? And this is the way I'm doing it at the moment. If you've got a comment on it, or you think I could do something differently, or, you know, or you're interested and you need to ask a question, leave me a comment. I will answer. Please share, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.